Hey, welcome guys to the Slowpoke. Well, got another player interview here with Patrick Littleson, the highest finishing Zoroark player from Madison, all the way up to a 7th with his Zoro Persian slow kick. How are we, Patrick?
We're hanging in there. Better now after Madison.
There we go. Lots up your invite, didn't it? I think I remember reading.
Yes.
Lots
yes.
of congratulations on that.
Yeah, I really only needed any points. 128 would have been fine. So when I got to about 6 wins, I was through the moon, over the moon, I should say, through the roof, either one.
Over the moon, through the roof, and he went all the way, and he didn't just stop at top 128, he was cruising all the way to top 8. But we'll get all about that. We'll get into your day and how it went, all your matchups, all that good stuff. So, my first question to you is, go on to pick your brains, because like I said, I'm not a Zoroark player. I've actively hated Zoroark for the longest of time, but I thought, I've noticed that I don't really cover a lot of Zoroark here on the channel, so I thought I want to reach out to someone that did well, and you were the top at Limitless, I asked you, and then here we are. So, talk to me through, so obviously you were looking to guarantee points for Madison, right? Or there was, make sure you did, get some points.
Yeah.
What led you to Zoroark? With stuff like Reshizard, stuff like, what's that, Pikarom with electromagnetic radar and all that good stuff. What made you go down? What made you pick Zoroark?
So I think Zoroark is probably just the most consistent deck that's probably ever existed.
Yep.
So for 9 rounds, I really just wanted to be able to play the game every single round and not see something that my opponent flips over and think, well, I can't do anything about that.
Yeah, that's.
So just Zoroark just allows you can choose what you want to lose to. So you can lose to Mill if you don't want to tech for that. You can lose to Charizard if you don't play the correct water stuff. So I just wanted to be able to decide what I thought I was going to see and be able to have a chance against anything that my opponent flipped over.
Okay, and there's something to be said for that, in honesty. When you play 9 rounds and you go going for points, there's something to be said for just saying, right, I want to play every game, and like you said, sort of choose a match, as it were. So you alluded to there something a little bit there. I love my grammar today, but yeah, it's been a long day. So going into Madison, you said you can sort of tailor Zoroark as to sort of what you expect to see, pick your techs accordingly, right? What was you expecting to see?
I mostly expected Charizard, and I definitely thought there would be more Mill than there was. We can get into that a little later, but I definitely heavily teched for Mill, and I sort of figured Zoroark is strong enough on its own that it can sort of handle everything else. That's sort of what I needed to tech for.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess that's where I put the tech slots, what I would call.
Cool. And then you said you can sort of pick and choose what you try and beat and what you lose to. Was there anything where you just said, right, if I went into that, I'm not going to bother tech for it. If I went into it, chalk it up? Or was you sort of trying to play the field evenly?
I think with Persian, you sort of play the field evenly.
Yeah,
like
that's fair.
It allows for even more consistency and it hits higher numbers.
Yeah.
But I mean, if one of my opponents had flipped over a Natu with Lost March, I probably would have lost.
Okay.
That probably just would have been curtains. I don't really have an answer for that. You muck and judge and pray. Vikavolt, I scooped to every Vikavolt that I saw online leading up to the tournament. Just figured I'm not going to see that. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then I 2-0'd the only Vikavolt that I saw. So Zoroark is powerful.
Yeah, Zoroark can do that. It's just like, just draw 2 every time, draw 2. And then with Catwalk as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It does add that sort of... a challenge I was just watching him play. I was watching Zoroark play against my mate at the time. Well, he's still my mate thinking about it. But I was watching him play. And then obviously my man took a KO, activated Catwalk, and my man just got, triple boost, and then Choice Band. And then he played a Kukui, did some shenanigans, did like 210 or 220. And he was like, my mate was like, yo, what are the chances you had all that? I was like, mate, he catwalked it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
It was 100% chance he was getting that. So, so going into this what was I going to say? Yeah. So, we'll talk about some of your counts then. We sort of talked about 2-2 Persian. So far as that's what you were playing. But was that ever a 1-1? Or was that always a solid 2-2?
So the list I started out with is actually just the list that Azul posted on Twitter. He had won a cup with it, and then the next day I took it to a cup, and Caleb Gedimer was there playing the same 60, and I did pretty well. I made it to top 8. I really wanted a top 4 so I could finish up my invite at League Challenges. I lost to Charizard in top 8, and I figured this is almost perfect. So I made a few tweaks. I cut the Dugong line entirely for just a thicker Persian and a thicker Slowking because those felt better throughout the day. Dugong just felt like it's great to have, and there are situations where it can take over the game. Mm-hmm. But if you're going second, it's kind of useless, and it's not very good against Charizard, despite what everyone seems to think.
Yeah, that's what I've sort of gathered between talking about Zoroark and other segments is that Dugong, for it to be good, you have to have the situation has to, like you said, you have to be going first. You have to have Seal down, or you have to have Ditto, or even preferably in the active as well, and then you have to hit your triple boost. And if any of those things don't happen, it loses effectiveness. And like you said, I'd also agree. I think having a thicker Persian and a thicker Slowking, I'd rather that than every 20 games. Like, oh, there's both you in case, fella. Or, I got the ideal baby count, sort of, the snipe into the play and all that good stuff. So, okay, so Dugong went. Okay, so that became into your Slowking. And then with your Slowking 2-2, did you find out enough of a Charizard defense?
If they put down Charizards, it was plenty. Yep. The problem is that they usually only used Eevee Snorlax.
Yep.
So when they use Snorlax, you sort of have to chip into it here and there and disrupt them as much as you can and hope that they can't establish a second one.
Yeah.
You can deal with one Snorlax, but 2 is pushing it.
Yeah. That Snorlax, that is such a good addition in it. That is such a checkmate right there. Oh my lord. I mean, I guess we'll talk about that a little bit later. But then, on the back of seeing that now Charizard plays so much Eevee Snorlax, is there anything you could potentially change to combat that, or?
Just what I immediately thought of after the tournament was that Slowking probably isn't good enough. You probably need something that can counter Eevee Snorlax directly. Mm-hmm. So whether you want a non-GX route like Marowak, if you have Marowak, Choice Band, Diancie, and Kukui, it one-shots, if my math is correct on that, because that would be 140 with the 70 base.
I haven't even seen it. This is a first. Someone's talking about a card that I don't know. What set is this Marowak?
The Marowak from Unbroken Bonds.
Unbroken. This is I pride myself as being a knower of every card. What have we got here then? So for 3 energy, stage 1, accept your cookies, whatever. If your opponent's active with a tool card attached, it does 70. Okay, so you do 70. Kukui, Diancie would be 90, 180. Then Choice Band will take you, that take you to for 60. E240, then Kukui. Yeah, I think that does it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a lot to have, but I guess the plus there would be that you can keep the Slowking then, because then it really helps your Blacephalon matchup.
Yeah.
Your baby Blacephalon and your big Blacephalon. So that would be the reason to play Marowak. Otherwise, you can look into a Silvally with the memories. You would have to play double Kukui because you need Kukui to one-shot either of them with the memory.
Yeah.
But
which is a joke.
If you don't play down your Silvally and your Persian until after they knock out a Zoroark, then you can catwalk into the pieces, and they can't prevent you from taking those. Okay. Taking the revenge KO.
I like it. And then one thing I've heard a little bit for trying to bum rush some fighting back into Zoroark is the counter gain Machamp tag team. Did you ever thought about that?
That would probably be really smooth. The issue with Machamp is that Zoroark doesn't really have great pivots. So either you have Silvally anyway to retreat your basic. Yeah. You don't want the Machamp down because then they can knock it out with Charizard, etc. It also requires 2 attachments. Mm-hmm. So you do need the counter gain. And you need Kukui then to one-shot the Snorlax. So if you're going to use that, you might as well have a less risky investment.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. To be fair, I just love Machamp, so just try and get.
Oh, believe me, I would love to use that alternate art Machamp Marshadow card.
That is a nice card. I have to add that to
Yeah.
the collection. Definitely, 100%. So what have we got here? So we'll just get into a bit more of your list now.
Sure.
So Dedenne. Now, is that something that's staple in Zoroark list? I can't remember seeing it before. Is that something then that is it a staple? And then how effective was it?
Dedenne is probably like one of the best cards in the deck.
Okay.
It's just so incredibly powerful. When you play Zoroark, you're sort of resigned to the fact that you may have to discard things. You may get into a weird hand where you want all of these pieces, but you have to weigh, like, this is more valuable, or maybe I can do without all of these things. At that point, you can Dede change and just get a whole new hand. So I don't believe it's a staple, but I think it should be.
Right, okay.
There are just so many situations, especially late game, where one Dedenne is just so much better than one Tapu Lele. We don't have good enough supporters anymore.
Yeah.
And with the way the Zoroark support we have, without Evo Soda or Bridget, you're not getting out as many Zoroarks as you would hope. And you also have to dedicate bench spots to the partner Pokemon like Persian or Slowking. So you may need to dig even deeper for the combo pieces to even get down the Persian even.
That's fair, yeah. Sort of digging for more stuff with less supporters and less trades. You might have more out and stuff. Okay, I never even thought of it. This is ways you get a good Zoroark player. This is stuff I've never even thought of. No, I like that. I like it. Okay. Resetting whole Marshadow. Now, this is something I have seen crop up a bit in Zoroark lists and in other stuff. In that the guy League challenge I mentioned earlier, he was playing it. So, what is the sort of reasoning behind? I mean, I can imagine why, but then just from your perspective, because you probably think of stuff that I've never thought of again. So, like, what's the deal with that?
So Zoroark decks, just if you can't trade, your deck is bad.
Yeah.
And that sort of led me. I had initially tried to cut Zoroark down to a 3/3 because obviously you're not attacking with it as much with the triple energy partners that you have. But the deck just doesn't work if you don't get out Zoroarks.
Yeah.
Again, the supporters are just not good enough to sustain the deck. So you need to be able to trade every turn, whenever you possibly can, anytime you have Zoroarks out. So the resetting hole was mostly get rid of power plants, and it's a searchable, recyclable way to get rid of power plants.
Yeah, okay, I didn't even thought about the fact that because if you can't trade with a power plant, you just ping. There you go. Okay, and you can straight trade back and all good stuff. Okay, yeah, there you go. So this is why I asked these questions. Okay, the next one was Mew. No, I can imagine. Was it more like a Weezing defense, a Tag Bolt defense, or was there something else I'm not thinking of as well?
It was mostly Tag Bolt. Weezing, it's definitely a plus. With one Acerola, I cut down to one Acerola because it's just not that useful in almost any other matchup.
Yeah.
So it's like a utility flex spot. I guess it's pretty good against Zapdos, but you can't really fit more than one. So I didn't want to dedicate any more spots to that. So I figured this helps against Pikarom, and it also swings the Weezing even further in your favor.
Yeah, that's fair. And did you ever attack with it? Because that attack's actually not too bad, to be fair. I've used it before.
I wanted to. I just could not find the use. There were a couple of times against Snorlax, if you can whittle them down, it makes them easier to two-shot with your Slowking.
Okay,
it can fix math, but I never really had to.
You never really had to. That's fair. And then the other thing was Alola Muck. Now, this is the sort of thing that I'd imagine. Well, very big last format, right? Stopping Jirachis and that. But obviously, I've seen it kept around in Zoroark list. How sort of impactful is the Alola Muck still? Is it still like a non-negotiable? Has to stay, or?
Yes, I think Muck is a staple in the deck. I don't think Muck is a tech anymore. I think it's just part of the deck.
Okay.
If you allow Jirachi decks to Stellar Wish and Stellar Wish, you'll get locked out of the game before you can establish anything. It's really good against the DDG Charizard.
Okay.
It's also good against Vikavolt. I didn't play any Zapdos, but obviously if you can get them both down and then Muck judge them, they sort of just extend their hand.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair, yeah. Never thought of it as a staple. Oh, I like it. And then what else do we have here? We've talked about Slowking, over Dugong. Yeah. Okay. So obviously Zoroark before Zoroark Lycanroc was the sort of go-to poster boy of Zoroark, and obviously Lycanroc sort of jibbed off a little bit. Now I noticed your Guzma count's only 2. So how do we feel? Were you ever missing Gust for Madison at all?
I definitely missed it, but I don't think that you can fit another Guzma. I think you really don't want to use it that frequently.
Yeah.
Like against Charizard, you maybe want to use it once or twice, but by that point you probably have trades online, or you can Wonder Tag for it. That's what I ended up doing. If you want to get the first hit in on a Snorlax, you can Lele Wonder Tag for the Guzma, and then Guzma Energy Drive. So in order to do that, you already have the Lele down. So I figured in the most important matchups against the tag teams, the threat is already in front of you. So you're better off just dealing with that.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. They can't sort of like stuff like Pikarom. They can't try and just Zapdos you like they might do something else because they ain't gonna cut it right. So they're gonna put it down.
Sure.
That makes sense.
Yep.
The judge. Now I heard that Judge in Madison was all over the shop. I saw a Granbull list with Judge and I was like, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And I see you've got one in here as well. How good was the Judge?
Judge is just so incredibly powerful. It's not what late game N used to be.
Yep.
But you still need that disruption. If you let your opponent play with 10 cards, they'll have everything that they need, and you'll lose. That's all there is to it. Especially in these decks with Jirachi, if you don't establish Muck, if your board gets too cluttered, you need some form of disruption.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, the amount of times I've sat across the table from someone, like I was playing Mali, for example, I've got the nuts in my hand. Like, go on then, whatever you do now,
Exactly.
It's fine. You know, I've got game. And they go, how many cards in your hand? You're like, I don't know, 8. Why? Judge, you're like, oh, for God's sake. Like, why would you do that? Don't pee me off. Okay. 1A Sorala, we spoke about that already. Kukui. Now, I've seen some lists play 2. We've opted for 1 here. What was the reasoning for that? And then could you ever see that number changing?
I think it depends. Like I said, your tech attackers. If you want to really tech for Snorlax, you probably need Kukui. There isn't really a way to do it without Kukui, so that may have to be a thicker line regardless of what you choose. Mm-hmm. But especially if you're going for Silvally, you absolutely need Kukui. It's the only way you answer either of the tag teams.
Yeah.
At least in the fire decks.
Yeah. Side note, how ridiculous is it that Silvally needs to have a Kukui to one-shot of these guys with weakness? That's a joke. Like my friend that was at that League channel I told you about, he's been playing Silvally ages before. He took a big hiatus, but before he left, he was playing Silvally a lot. And he's like, oh, you can just, as a water memory now, you can just, do that against Charles. Yep. I was like, mate, you don't even one-shot it, bro. Like, you need extra stuff. Oh, my Lord. And then the only other thing, really, was your Tate and Liza. Now, I might have seen this crept in a little bit. I'm guessing, is it used as like a sort of semi-pivot at the same time as maybe a consistency card? Talk me through the Tate and Liza.
So, I was really worried about Mill. I played Oranguru, a basic water energy, and Tate and Liza because I was worried about Mill. So the reason that you need Tate and Liza is because Mill can just counter catcher and trap your Pokemon active.
Yeah.
And then you can't resource management. And you can't rely on being able to attach and retreat in the same turn because they can Plumeria off the energy from your Oranguru the same turn that they counter catcher. Yeah. And with Stevens, this is well within the realm of possibility. So you need to be able to get Oranguru into the active and resource management in the same turn.
Yeah. Oh. Hello. Oh. Hello. Okay, just cut out a little bit there. Could you just repeat the last maybe 10 seconds?
Yeah, so in order to keep the resource management stream flowing, you need to be able to switch your Oranguru and attach to it from your hand in the same turn.
Okay.
So Tate and Liza works as a switch card, a recyclable switch card with Pal Pad.
Yeah.
And I did shuffle draw probably 9 to 1 as frequently as I used the switch effect. In fact, I'm not sure I used the switch effect over the whole course of the tournament.
Yeah. Okay, well, there you go, sister. I love this insight right there. Now I'm all about Tate and Liza. As a quick side note, there wasn't a lot of Mill in Madison, was there?
No, there were I think less than 10 in the whole room. I did play one of them and we tied. Um, I was all teched, but game one I prized rescue stretcher, which apparently is vital because they can just knock out your Oranguru and then your deck is finite again.
Yeah.
So you need rescue stretcher, Slowking, water energy, Oranguru, and Tain Liza to stay in the combo.
Yeah.
And even then they can just keep hitting you. So maybe a little silly to tech that hard, but it worked out.
There you go. Yeah, well, yeah, still at top 8, man. So, and then the only other thing I wanted to draw attention to, I mean, everything else is quite cool. The 2 field blower. So in total, for like staging removal here, we've got 2 blower and the reset whole Marshadow. Was the field blower mostly for tools at that point, or was it for staging? Talk me through the 2, because 2's are quite high count.
Yeah, so again, I thought Wheezing probably would see a lot more play. I didn't think it was good by any means, but people love to play spread. It tickles their brain in such a way.
Yeah.
They think they're doing so many cute little things, placing the damage counters just right. So people love to play it. So I figured I would see 1 or 2 day 1.
Yep.
And with the Mew, the only way you really lose is if they knock out the Mew and they can continue spreading.
Yep.
And the only way they would do that is with a spell tag. So if you eliminate the spell tags, then your Mew is safe, and they're really only doing 20 damage to a Zoroark every turn.
Yeah. So that's pretty checkmate. So yeah, I would have thought in that where if I was you, I would have thought Weezing would also be super popular. So I think that was a good call right there. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole list I want to talk about. Coming out of the event, or even sort of playing during the event, were there cards that you thought, oh, I wish I had, or I wish I didn't have this? Was there anything sort of in and around at the time?
I like the Oranguru. It surprisingly helped me a lot. It won me more than one round being able to put back energies, because let's say you prize your Lele, so you have to Dede change instead of Lily turn 1.
Yep.
And then that stuff's just gone. We don't have puzzles anymore. We don't have special charge, anything like that.
Yeah.
And your late game attackers really are the triple colorless attackers, whether it's Persian or Slowking.
Mm-hmm.
So if you run out of those, then your damage is capped, and you only have what Zoroark can give you.
Mm-hmm. Which with like, you carry on.
But besides Oranguru, like the Tain Liza, that whole package didn't really serve me at all.
Yeah. Okay. I sort of like. So would you say the Oranguru now, like you said, with triple boost or what triple acceleration, I should say, with sort of Persian being a good target for that late game, and so with Slowkings, would you say that the Oranguru isn't now just a mill defense? It's more so a resource. Well, was a resource management or the jokes but yeah, is it more so for that now than it is a mill defense? Because back in the day, that in Zoroark was sort of like, I don't want to lose to mill, but is it more so for that aspect now as well?
Yeah. I think it's even less so attack against mill. Like, you have to play basic energy in order to not lose, and even then they can Plumeria and Giraffe Rig. Especially with Surge, they can Plumeria and Tain Liza in the same turn to Giraffe Rig your basic energy away. So Mill has every answer. So it's Oranguru by himself doesn't really accomplish anything.
Yeah.
The basic water energy was there to memory melt, and that's really your strategy against Mill. Yeah. So, but you need Oranguru to be able to constantly stream that. So I would say if you're concerned about Mill, then Oranguru helps. You can just judge every turn, and that stops them, I guess. It slows them down. It can give you a tie. You can't win, though. So beyond that, I would probably just rely on myself to play more carefully.
Okay.
And try and just manage the resources myself.
Okay, I like that. Okay, so Oranguru is getting up in value. I like it. So talk us through your sort of day then. Don't have to do a full match report if you don't like, but just sort of talk us through your sort of key matchups, the stuff that happened, any learning experiences, and then we'll look to go through your data a little bit more in depth.
Sure. So day one, I started off against a Mag Cargo GX deck.
Wow.
And that was really, really free. Slowking just
Oh yeah.
absolutely bodies. Yeah. And also Persian can also one shot either Flareon or Mad Cargo. So I
Yeah.
don't really see any merit to that deck at all. But it's round one.
Yeah. We take those.
I saw a lot of Charizard. Uh, I played against the Carl Barone, the Vikavolt champion himself. I saw him on stream. I saw him tweet, "I'll be on stream round two," and I checked the pairings, thinking, "It's got to be me. It's got to be me." And I dodged him that round, but the very next round, I paired him, and Oranguru actually was the MVP. I put back some 3CE. I got to one-shot Persians, and against that matchup, you really just gotta get mocked down and judge them at the exact right time to be able to prevent them from just streaming the Vikavolt. Besides that, I played against Gramble. Again, Muck is just so powerful against decks that require basic abilities, Instruct, Stellar Wish, any of those. I guess the only other noteworthy one would be a Blastoise. I played against a Blastoise GX deck.
Oh my god, sorry, I'm not being rude. I was just trying to say that's what I've got sleeved for tomorrow. Grumble.
Yeah, I think it's a good play.
It took me so long to find the Grumble. Like, where the hell was the Grumble in here? But yeah. So we talk about how does that matchup go?
Which one, Gramble?
Grumble, yeah.
So if you can get Muck down and target down Mad Cargos, then they're really relying on the top of their deck and their prizes.
Yeah.
And even then, they can't one-shot a Zoroark. Yeah. So it's unfortunate the numbers that it hits. If you're not expecting Zoroark, I think it's probably just exclusively the play. It's really good against the tag teams. It's a really favorable uptrade, but Muck is just too powerful.
I think you're right. I have matched Zoroark, and I was being sneaky when I played it before. I didn't play Stealth Hood. I just said if I ran to Zoroark and they get mucked down, I'll just accept that. And then that muck came down, and I was like, okay then.
Yeah, the Stealthy Hood is cute, but
I don't think it's enough,
it doesn't.
In all honesty.
Yeah, it doesn't guarantee you an empty hand. It guarantees you more cards, which could get you to an empty hand, but you're still rolling the dice. It's just you get to roll again, I suppose. And Zoroark decks are playing 1 or 2 blower, so the Hood's probably not going to last that long. So it's probably not good enough.
Yeah, I think we agree there. And yeah, I heard Blastoise as well. How did that go? Was that Blastoise
game one?
The double stage 2 Blastoise, or was that Blastoise?
Yes.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. Game 1, I got absolutely stomped. Blastoise has 240 HP, and that's just with the ability, it's just way beyond what you can hit.
That is a big
and you can't even poke it with Slowking because they shuffle their energy back in. Yeah, so your only hope really is that they put down too many things that you can Guzma with Persian, or that you can get the Squirtles out efficiently. And game 2, he just couldn't get any Squirtles down. It was just Guzma knockout Squirtle, Guzma knockout Squirtle, and he scooped it up pretty quickly. And then in the next game, he couldn't get out multiple stage 2s, so it was one Blastoise, and he was attacking with Articuno, and that's just not going to do anything.
Yeah. Okay. So any other cool decks from round 1, or cool games or rounds, I should say as well?
Not really. It was mostly just Charizard. I got stomped by one when a power plant stuck. The others, not so much. I was either able to resetting hole or they didn't play it at all. Yeah. And I was able to 2-shot with Slowking and get the job done that way.
There we go. So what was your record? What was your round 9, end of round 9 record, do you remember?
I was 7-1-1. I was 6-1-1 heading into round 9, and I thought I might as well play it out now.
Yeah, definitely. Jeez.
Yeah, I was guaranteed, so
7-1-1. Very good. All right, so talk us through day 2 then. This is where everyone's, pulls their pants up and it's like, here we go.
Yeah, so day 2, I was just thrilled to be there. Yep. I mean, I had locked up my invite. That's what I was there for. I thought, I'm in pretty good position. I'm the 10th seed. Maybe I'll hit some good matchups. We can maybe squeak out a top 16. I think that's as much as I was letting myself hope. So I paired against Danny Altavilla. Yep. International champion Danny Altavilla, round 1. We were on the backup stream, and I figured everyone had heard that they were playing 2 Eevee Snorlax, So that was no longer a secret. So I go into the round thinking, well, this is going to be unfortunate. That's a rough way to start the day, but we can bring it back from here. But instead, he prized a Snorlax game one, so he couldn't set them up in time, and a well-timed muck judge just prevented him from being able to set it up efficiently. So he scooped it up pretty quickly to get to game two so we could try and finish the series.
Yep.
And it took him all 6 bench spaces to be able to set the Snorlax up. He opened it in the active game two, and it took him all 6 of his bench spaces with support Pokemon to be able to set up the Snorlax.
Right.
So he couldn't really get another one out. And by the time he could even bench another attacker, I was at 2 prizes. And at that point, I can just pick off a Dedenne for game. So I got a little lucky that round. And yeah, so that was fortunate. The next round, I played against Xander Pero. He was playing Pikarom, and he beat me game one. It was close, but I just couldn't keep up. The Pikarom was too strong. I couldn't get the Persian combo. So if you have 9 Pokemon in the discard, a Choice Band, and Kukui, Persian's Vengeance will one-shot a Pikarom. But you need to have all of that. And the way that their deck is built, they can full blitz on turn 1.
Yeah.
And certainly on turn 2. So you got to really keep up in the tempo. And if you miss a beat, then they can tag bolt and take over the game. But I pulled out a close series on, I think, turn 2 of time against Xander. If you get Mew down at the right time, then they can only take 2 prizes with tag bolt. And even then, if you're 2-shotting a Pikarom, you can still stay in it.
Yeah.
He usually opened up with Zapdos, so I would take 1 prize off the Zapdos, 2-shot a Pikarom, or 1-shot it with a big Persian stretch, and then Guzma up a Zeraora or a Tapu Lele with Vengeance and take a knockout that way. Okay. So I beat Xander on, I think, in turns, and then the next round I played on stream. There's a video that I do not suggest you watch. I played against Cody Walensky. He was playing the Greens version of Charizard.
Yes.
I played dreadfully. I had never played on stream before, at least not at a real event. The noise was a factor. Okay. I didn't have it. I definitely got the yips. We went through a couple of turns. I had to discard a triple energy that I didn't want to. Mm-hmm. And then I go to... He knocks out my Tapu Lele after I energy drive his Snorlax. And I have Catwalk. And I grab a triple energy to attack with. And a Guzma, expecting him to bench a Snorlax to Stretcher and replace the Snorlax. And he'll need a turn to get it set up because he can only get 3 energy on the Snorlax at a time.
Yeah.
So I figured I would, at that point, Guzman hit into it first so I can start the race.
Yeah.
But I already had a Guzma in hand, and maybe it's the nerves. Maybe I just wasn't playing well. But I could have grabbed a Choice Band, which evidently I needed because my math was off.
Oh,
and I ended up hitting the Snorlax for 260. But he had assumed, we both assumed that it was the right number because I catwalked for whatever 2 cards I want. If I needed Choice Band or Kukui, I could have grabbed those. So he assumes it's a knockout. He plays his next turn. We might even get into my turn before we realize that it was not a knockout. He shuffled his deck, all sorts of stuff, when one of the stream operators comes up and tells us that the math was off. So at that point, I decide, my last triple is prized. I'm probably not winning this game. I'm just going to scoop this up, save time.
Okay,
In the past, when I've gotten penalties, it sort of gets to my head,
Yeah,
so
I know what you mean.
I figured I'd be preemptive, get this one out of the way. Let's try and finish 2 more clean games. And then the next game, I prized a Ditto and a Slowpoke. So I had 1 Slowking for the whole game. That was unfortunate. And then I judged him into double Custom Catcher and Max Potion to heal his damaged Snorlax all in 1 turn. So he Custom Catchers the Ditto that I had just placed down, that I had gotten off my prizes, knocks it out with Volcanion. I'm at 2 prizes. He has Volcanion and a Snorlax with 1 energy. So my only hope is that he physically doesn't have enough energy, but he uses cheer up after I knock out the Volcanion.
Oh wow, yeah.
He welders 3 and cheers up the 4th one. So the game's over. I just have to extend the hand. So that was really rough. It sucked to have such a silly mistake. Just
Yeah.
take the whole round. So I had to regroup. Carl Barone, the Vikavolt guy, he really helped me. He's just a great dude. He was positive, spreading the positivity, getting me back focused. So based on the math that we had done, if I win one more, I should be able to ID into top 8. So I just needed to win my next round. And I paired against Will Jenkins, who was playing the same 60 as Xander.
Okay.
And our game 1 was pretty similar to the game 2 and 3 against Xander. I was able to put Mew down to prevent him from tag bolting for multiple prizes. I was able to 2-shot a Pikarom when I had to. And then game 3, he just didn't have anything. He had to full voltage on like turn 3 to even be able to attack the next turn. That's the Zoroark's GX attack.
Yeah.
So it was much too slow, and I was just able to vengeance and take whatever knockouts I needed because this board was so weak. So that locked me for top 8. I paired against Ian Robb. We ID'd, and I was locked into top 8.
Yeah, there we go. So what are your thoughts at this point then, now that you're locked in top 8?
I was shocked, honestly. I've been playing for like 2 years, and I made day 2 like twice. One time I lost a winning in to top 8, and the other time I just scrubbed out, and I think I got last out of all the day 2 competitors.
Oh.
So I knew that I could do it, but just being that hot for the whole weekend, it felt really good.
Okay. Happy days. So now we're over the moon. So talk to us. What did you match to top 8 and how did that go?
So I paired against Michael Pramawat, who's playing the same 60 as Danny Altavilla, all those DDG guys.
Yeah.
He's part of that testing group. Game 1, I was really aggressive. Rather than go for a Lily, I used Lele to grab a Guzma and get the first hit in on his Snorlax. So I think Lele either sets up a perfect 2-shot or does a perfect 2-shot. So I got down, I think, maybe 2 basics. So I Dede changed after a Guzma, and he responded with a Let Loose, and I just got all of my basic Pokemon because they weren't on my bench, so they were all in my hand. If I had gotten a supporter, then that game might be different. I can 2-shot the Snorlax that he has active, and then I only have to deal with 1, and I'm already so far ahead that I can maybe squeak it out just under the clock. But and then game 2, I went to do a similar maneuver where I would Lele Wonder Tag for Guzma, and the Lele was prized. He had 2 damaged Snorlax, and the Lele would knock out either one. So I Ultra Balled, and I kept searching and searching and searching. I had the Raw Lily on the first turn, so I didn't need the Lele. So I didn't have to look for it. So I went to look for it, and it wasn't there. So only so much you can do about that. But and then because I missed that, I got to or he got to use the Miltank and heal the Snorlax, and at that point he's already up 3 or 4 prizes. There's nothing you can do there.
Yeah.
So lost 2-0 to the 7 god Michael Pramawat.
Worse people. I mean, there's could be worse. No, there's worse people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So there we go. That concluded the run then. So obviously, I'm super happy with your result.
Oh, absolutely.
Moving forward then. So obviously you've got Columbus. Are you going to that? EUIC? No, not EUIC. NIC.
I'm going to do my best. I've got some stuff in the works, some business ventures in the Pokemon sphere upcoming that may enable me to get out to NAIC. I'd like to.
Okay, that sounds good. So let's assume all these ventures are going super well. Are we sleeving up Zoroark again for it?
Probably. Zoroark is really good. I know I'm not breaking news there, saying that Zoroark is a good card. It's probably the best card that's been released in a decade,
Yeah.
but it's so good. You can decide what you want to beat, and that just, if you have the ability to make a good meta call, then you can just win the tournament right there.
Yeah, this is very true. This is very true. What I like to ask all the people that come on for interviews now is, obviously we get to that point where people are trying to close out invites. People might be like 50, 60 CP off. Would you recommend Zoroark to be that sort of closing deck for it? If you're just looking to guarantee CP, would you say Zoroark is the pick, or would you say there's something else that might be better suited for that?
I think Zoroark, if you have experience playing Zoroark,
Okay.
then you should probably play Zoroark. It's sort of like a whole different mindset that you have to have playing the game. You're not just like attach swing. I hope I get a supporter off the supporter. That's sort of what happens when you play against or play with basic energy decks. You have to, you just vomit your hand down onto the board and the game will play itself. But with Zoroark, you need to think turns ahead. You need to be careful what you trade. You need to manage your resources more so than I think with any other deck.
Yeah.
So if you've been playing Zoroark since it came out, then Zoroark is probably the deck. But if you play Vikabulu, then you're probably better off playing Charizard or Blacephalon.
Okay, that seems fair. I like that. So sort of stick to sort of what you know. Then it would be your advice to those people. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I like it. I think we'll wrap it up there then. Super happy to get you on. That was really good.
Thanks, man.
Hope you enjoyed it. Have you got any shout outs before we conclude?
I'd like to shout out Alex Kreckler, who helped me with the deck Friday afternoon. I was bugging. I had no idea what I was going to play. I was leaning towards Zoroark, but I wasn't sure on the 60, and he helped me work out the mill counters, which didn't really do anything, but the Oranguru won me a couple of rounds. I'd like to shout out Russ Miracle, my Pokemon dad. He sort of adopted me, getting me to all these tournaments, making sure I have a bed to sleep in. And beyond that, just follow me on Twitter. It's Littleson TCG, Littleson TCG.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good to me. I'll wrap up with my normal shout outs. That made thinking about it, because this is an interview, so we've got to shout out. Yeah, shout out to the Twitter Hot Talk PTCG. That's kind of new, a little bit of behind the scenes sort of stuff, me messing about, as it were. Shout out to the podcast on SoundCloud, sort of weekly or bi-weekly. Sort of a little bit more longer length, hour-long episodes, talking about all kinds of stuff. We're already on the YouTube channel, so if you're not subscribed, subscribe now. I'll try and get a video out a day, competitive content. So yeah, hit that up. I think that might be it. Thank you all for listening. Shout out to yourselves for being there, listening to me rambling on, and then this guy rambling on about a bad card. But no, I'm only joking. But yeah, any final words before we wrap it up?
Just thanks for having me, man. This show's been great. I've been listening since I started playing. It's been a great resource and a good way to get through the day.
Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. You hit me right there, the heartstrings, my guy. But no, yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that, man. I'm going to try and get you. We'll get you on a full well at some point. You know, we'll get you there now. But yeah, I think I'll wrap it up there. Thanks for listening, guys, and I'll see you all next time. Hey guys, thanks for watching that video, much appreciated, really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't hesitate to subscribe. I try and put out as much stuff here as I can, full deck profiles plus games, topic conversational pieces regarding anything in the TCG. Check out my Twitter, check out my Facebook, that's where I get most of the updates, sort of see what's going on behind the scenes, all that good stuff. Also check out the SoundCloud for the full bi-weekly podcast. If you're interested, if you like the conversational pieces, go check that out. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a good day.